All right, we got a controversial main event, one that is tugging at our heartstrings. Will Deshaun Watson come to Cleveland? Will Baker Mayfield stay the Browns quarterback? A lot of, there's a lot of serious stuff going on here, and it is a big chance that the Browns would have to take on Deshaun Watson if he does come to Cleveland. So let's look at the on-field, the risk to the Browns. I think no one is happy with what's going off the field with Deshaun Watson, and that's going to come with him going anywhere. And that's something that's disappointing and something that's going to follow him, but it's a part of the package. So, Drew, let's look at sort of the benefits, the cost of Deshaun coming to Cleveland from a draft pick perspective, for the team outlook. I guess just, how are you trying to, figure out how to navigate this potential change at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, you start by looking sort of at the two players, and I think it's fair to say at this point that if you're looking at Deshaun Watson versus Baker Mayfield, that pretty much any rational person is going to pick Deshaun Watson, all things off the field being equal, right? Like just put that to, I know that's a lot to push to the side. I acknowledge that. But if you're just looking at the two players, I think it's a fair sort of analysis to conclude that Deshaun Watson is probably the better player at this point in their careers, right? Like, I think that is where you sort of begin. And so, acknowledging that, you then start to look at what it would take to make sort of an upgrade at the quarterback position. So what I have been told is that the only teams that the Texans will allow to meet with Deshaun Watson are the teams that sort of send or offer the Texans a trade package that they could agree to. So there are three teams right now that have met those initial parameters, those being the Saints, the Panthers, and the Browns. All three teams now have met with Deshaun Watson. What I am hearing is that the initial asking price for the Texans, it is thought to be multiple first-round picks, multiple second-round picks, plus additional players. So if you're looking at sort of bare minimum, I've seen 3 first-round picks plus a second plus players. I've seen various combinations of it. I think if you look at sort of bare minimum just to get in the door, you're probably looking at first and second this year, first and second next year, plus a pretty good young player like a Denzel Ward, for example, like somebody that is a good player that they're going to have a hard time re-signing if they take on this big deal. So I think that's where you start to run this sort of analysis. Would you rather have Deshaun Watson, or would you rather have Baker Mayfield plus Denzel Ward plus potentially Garrett Wilson this year, plus a second round pick this year, plus have your flexibility next year? If it doesn't work out, maybe you make a big move up and try to get one of the quarterbacks next year. So that becomes the question. That's the analysis you have to run on if you want to make this sort of deal or not. And I start to question if it is really that big of an improvement. I think probably in 2022 they're better with Deshaun Watson, but looking forward, they've lost any sort of flexibility to improve drastically beyond that. They've essentially they've taken themselves out of acquiring any elite level collegiate talent for 2 straight years, and then you're into if it doesn't work out, you have mortgaged 2 draft classes essentially to make this deal. And that's the question you have to ask yourself. What is that worth it? I lean towards no. This doesn't mean I'm some Baker bro for life, but it does mean that I think I'd rather have Baker Mayfield plus all those assets for 2022 than Deshaun Watson plus all of his off the field baggage for the next several years going forward.
I thought we were Baker Bros for life. I thought that's what we were changing the name of the podcast to. So I'm really disappointed to hear that.
There's some people that are listening that would love that. We appreciate you. We're just objective fans. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
Eric, Drew lays it out pretty clearly there. How does Deshaun Watson end up in Cleveland?
Oh boy. Some would call him a bad guy, and some would say bad times don't last, bad guys do. So, will he last in Cleveland? I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be a king's ransom that the Browns would have to surrender. Gosh, I mean that's just a huge PR hit, and it's a huge huge off the field distraction for the Browns. And like Drew said, yeah, you just look at 2019 or 2019, the 2019 draft, we gave up our first round pick only for OBJ. And that feels like we've missed 3 picks as a result. I mean, that was a big hole right there. And we actually have drafted good players in the last couple of years, but I don't feel confident with this team surrendering 3, 4, 5 guys in the first couple of rounds of the next 2 or 3 drafts to really cement themselves to try to make up for this, this lack of youth that could be helping the team out in multiple years down the road. I think Deshaun Watson, coming out, I was good with him. He's a good player. I think he's better than Baker Mayfield as a professional. However, is he at Pat Mahomes level? No. Is he? Josh Allen maybe, but I don't know if what it's going to cost is even worth what he can bring to the team. I kind of agree with Drew is that, in the short term, it's going to help because he is an improved quarterback. You saw what happened last year. We had an injured quarterback who didn't play well. We went 8-9, could have won a couple more games, could have won the division. Who knows from there? Going forward after that, that's tough to say. You're going to have to make a lot of smart moves and have to not rely on the draft and rely on free agency. And that's typically not been the Cleveland Browns way. Granted, we haven't really been successful in the draft either, but it's really kind of, I'm just kind of, frustrated personally out of all these people saying how it's basically Baker Mayfield's gotten so much worse between January and now. They're saying he's the worst quarterback ever. He's the worst quarterback ever, worst quarterback ever. He's not the best, but I mean, I think we can stick with him for 1 year. It's not that he's a terrible player. He has value. He can score touchdowns. He can, be a good leader. And I think that can get us to wherever the next stage is. Hopefully they don't mortgage too much for the future next year for the draft, however we get, or if we want to do a Matt Stafford, Tom Brady kind of thing in the future. I don't know. The other thing is that, this whole potential getting Deshaun Watson, I don't know how that's messing with Baker's psyche. He's been very vocal on social media. He hasn't recently, but doesn't mean he's not talking with others. And I don't know how the locker room's doing. So if they don't get Deshaun and Baker's upset and wants to trade, I don't know where they're going to go from there. I mean, Derek Carr's the last guy I can think of. He's a slight upgrade, I guess, about Baker Mayfield. I just don't want to go into another season that's hoping between 4 and 8 wins, best case scenario, and then we're hoping for our quarterback next year. My head's kind of spinning, and I don't have a lot of positive vibes right now. We'll see what happens. Again, Deshaun Watson, very good quarterback. I think it's not worth the risk, and it's not worth the baggage. I'd be fine with Baker, sticking with another year, but I don't know if that's even in the cards. There's reports out, that bridges have been burned, and I don't want to go with Case Keenum and another guy or two off the streets and just hope that we can just not embarrass ourselves before we draft our franchise quarterback allegedly next year.
We will always be impacted by LeBron leaving Cleveland, the center of the team leaving Cleveland. And I think with the Browns, we worry about that as well. that Baker could leave after having an incredible season coming up here. I think it could be the same with Deshaun. I don't think there's anything that would have him wanting to stay in Cleveland, even though we would reach out there. So it's going to be a risk no matter where we go. I think this is the time to give Baker one more year. I said this for Jarvis, and that didn't work out. But let's go, Baker, one more year. I could see him playing really well for the Texans next year and make all those draft picks we would lose, making us look foolish. And I just the leadership with this team has so valued draft picks. I just don't understand how they would give away all of those draft picks for a risk. So that's what I'm saying. Let's stick with Baker.